Over to Louisiana now, where the separation of church and state no longer exists inside the classroom. Yesterday, the state's governor signed a new law that requires the 10 Commandments to be on full display at all schools, regardless of if they're Catholic or not. This makes the state of Louisiana the only state in the U.S. to have this type of legislation, reigniting long-running conflicts over the role of religion in government institutions. Jason Guidola joins us live tonight with more. And Jason, I'm sure there's been a lot of backlash here.
Absolutely, Nicole. Opponents say that the new law violates precedent after the Supreme Court struck down a similar law in Kentucky back in the 1980s.
The display of the 10 Commandments in every classroom in public, elementary, secondary, and post-education schools in the state of Louisiana.
A child standing behind Republican Jeff Landry collapses to the ground while the Louisiana governor pens biblical directives into law.
Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not lie. These are important things. I think that in the state of Louisiana, we have echoed a strong voice that we believe that faith is a very important part of history and the founding of this nation. Again, we've got it posted in historical buildings all over the place.
After being approved by state lawmakers last month, public schools and colleges will be mandated to have poster-sized displays of the 10 Commandments, the religious rules given to Moses by God, according to Christian and Hebrew faiths. The legislation also authorizes schools to hire chaplains, restrict teachers from discussing sexual orientation and identity, and preventing the use of pronouns unless signed off by parents.
There's not any penalty under the law. It's just a requirement that the classrooms should post.
Louisiana's mandate of the religious texts makes them the only state in America to have such a law.
I've taught Jehovah's Witnesses. I've taught Muslim students. I have really great Muslim teacher friends.
Plenty of pushback is coming from some educators.
Focusing on these culture war issues that are maybe trendy nationwide, but they don't make a difference in our life every day. That 10 Commandments poster isn't going to make sure that my kids that I have at the next school I work at are going to go home and have something to eat.
And outside opponents who say it violates the U.S. Constitution, adding Congress cannot establish religion into law.
I think the intent was to bring it up to the Supreme Court, where they are seeking to push this right-wing extreme Christian nationalist agenda. This has already been decided at the Supreme Court. This was tried over 40 years ago, where it was said clearly, we have a separation of church and state.
Civil liberty groups say they intend to challenge and file a lawsuit citing a breach in precedent. In 1980, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that a similar Kentucky law was unconstitutional. But the makeup of the Supreme Court has changed over the years. In 2022, the country's top court ruled in favor of a fired public high school football coach who knelt and prayed on the field after games.
It's certainly my hope that it is struck down. I think that even with this conservative Supreme Court, they will see that this is clearly unconstitutional. And I just think this is a bridge too far. You open this door, then where does it stop?
I don't understand why this is so preposterous and that litigation is being threatened. It doesn't scare us in the state of Louisiana. We say bring it on.
And according to the legislation, all Louisiana schools have until January of next year to have the 10 Commandments on display, and they say that it must be funded by private donors only. However, the law doesn't state what will happen to schools who don't comply with the directive.